Is the story about the other Faust true?
Yes.
Have you left out any details?
None that I think are relevant. There's some extra information in my workshop, like I told you. I won't speak any more on it while inside of this.
Are your intentions just now, or do you intend on betraying the Empress upon being brought back?
There are certain lines that I am willing to cross, but the Empress is not one of them. I meant what I said in the courtroom. I think her rule of law is just and best for this land.
Let's see.
Yeah, you got 10 minutes, so I mean, you're... You could always just recast it, in theory, but, you know.
I'm trying to think of another good question for him. Because I have one that I want to end on, but...
Oh. Do you have anything to do with the disappearance of my clan?
I do not. I saw documentation about that at one point, and you may find it crass of me to say this, but I had bigger fish to fry at that point.
I'm gonna glow a little, but I'm not gonna say nothing.
Other than your workshop and the documentation we're going to find there, do you know anything else about what we can do for Grail?
I don't. I wish I could figure out a way to get to wherever it is he's coming from. It's the thing that has eluded me for quite some time now. For both your friend's sake, but also my own.
Can you honestly say that you care about anyone other than yourself?
He gives you like a wry smile. He says, I probably care about more people than you're giving me credit for. But I am a bit of an asshole too, so it's a little bit of both. But there are certain individuals that are the only reason I've pursued this so hard for so long.
Do you have Cora's best interest at heart?
I do. In fact, you'll find a note about her as well when you go looking through my belongings. Another topic about which I don't wish to speak while subjected to this, for fear of anybody who could be listening in. Call it paranoid, but having not been able to sense another's presence for 8 hours today, I am a little bit concerned at least.
It's fine. I don't have any more questions anyways. If anyone else does, please go ahead.
Tessian shakes his head. At this point, we've kind of learned everything we need to, and all the important stuff seems to be in this lab that he won't speak on, so there's no point in trying to pick little bits and pieces here and there.
He says, still in the zone, by the way, he says, she, your sister, I think she's the best chance we have of restoring any semblance of honor to our family's name. I will be permanently stained by this, even if the truth does come out eventually that it was done for a purpose. A trial of this magnitude, and even if I'm found innocent of these most recent charges, my actions back in the war, having come to light, will still have ruined the Dryden name for some time. But she's different, even from you. You have blood on your hands as well, for a different purpose, certainly, but nonetheless. She's the one person in our family who I can safely say has been involved in none of this. I will tell you in advance, although the note will explain in greater detail, I halted testing on her some time ago. I don't want her connected to any of this. And I say that to you in here so that you don't think it's some kind of a ruse. Of course, I could have overpowered the zone, and I could be lying to you right now, but I'm trying to play nice right now.
It's fine. I didn't ask, and you didn't tell me anything I didn't know. She is the best chance for this family. That's always been the case.
I think the testing is something you didn't know.
What kind of testing?
Well, given that they're related to me, there are varying degrees of magical lineage within my family, some of it quite powerful. It's part of why my son, and he gestures to Isaac, is able to wield the weapons that he does. Their properties would overwhelm the common folk if they tried to use a weapon like this and were able to activate it somehow. It would be too much for them. Probably kill them on impact. They would take out a person and then the memories would flood through them and give them some kind of aneurysm or something that would just take them out immediately. Cora, I think, is the closest to me in terms of her potential abilities. And at the time, my brother and I were seeing what that potential might lead to. I think the two of us quickly realized there would be no good that came of it. At best, she could be a prodigy, someone who could even stand on my level, but then what? What would she do with that ability? And at worst, we'd be subjecting her to tests to find out that she only had limited abilities. These tests can be quite strenuous. That's why Isaac has such gaps in his memory. Some unintended consequences, if you will.
So you've tested Isaac, then?
Oh, extensively, yes. That's why I keep
there
prying to see what he remembers from his youth. The answers are even less than I thought there would be.
Is there anything you think Isaac should know from that time period that he has forgotten?
You can see him kind of thinking about this.
I don't know that I need to know. Nor do I especially care. My past is with the family, and my past is you, and I don't really wish for that to be a part of me anymore.
He kind of shrugs. He says, fair enough. There's not a whole lot more to it, to answer your question, Tessian. It's pretty much what I've told him, either today with the group around you, or in the past, like when he visited when I was incarcerated.
Tessian nods. He'd push it further, but Isaac has sort of decided he didn't want to hear it.
Yeah,
So,
this is what he does. Even right before death, he wants to manipulate, even trying to play on the Empress's side. He's pushing his little players and marionettes across the field and the board, and I don't care. I don't want it anymore. In his words, he has power. So, are we done here? Let's move on.
well, then to Isaac's point, Faust, I would ask you this final question. If you are playing this game, let's assume hypothetically, what would be your end goal? What would you move the pawns for in this hypothetical game that you could be playing?
If I were me, or if I were the other me?
Yourself. What is it you truly wish to see as an end game here? For you, not for him.
Well, I'd like to keep the kingdom safe. That'll sound rich coming from me, I suppose, but it has been one of the guiding forces behind my actions these past couple of decades. And more recently, in the last year or two especially, I have deemed it that there is a considerable threat coming. So my end game, as one of the few people that might be powerful enough to stop it, is to do so. But individually, I don't even know that any one person could be enough. I think the other me has something drastic up his sleeve. If he's as devious as I am, or anything close, and he's also desperate, I shudder to think what he might do.
Could it be conquest?
I think that's possible, yes. Subjugation. Forced removal. I've even considered something as outlandish as he wants to swap places. Take all the denizens of this world and move them to his, into whatever hellhole he comes from that's made him want to reach out to ours so badly. I don't understand how something of that magnitude could be possible, but it's something I've considered as I've tried to weigh all the options.
Well, keep thinking. I'm not aware of the things that I don't even know in this case. And for example, if there's some resource he could take from our Earth that would rebirth his, some essence that would steal the life away from us and re-terraform that war-torn planet that we've seen in our visions. I don't know what's capable, but I think we need to think outside of the box so we're prepared for anything that he does. Because if he's half as devious as you, that could be a real problem.
I concur.
Well, I feel I've had my share of my fill of answers.
So the question then, and he's still standing in the zone, it's got a couple minutes left, is, do you believe me, or do you need further proof? I offered my head to the Empress, so if you need to take a memory from me to verify one last time in a way that's different from this, that this is all true, you can do so. I've steeled myself for it. I'll have to step out of this to do so, but if you've finished asking me questions, there should be no further need for it.
I think his most precious memory could be quite telling, actually.
Then I suppose the decision's been made, Isaac. Take the man's head.
Well, I don't want to take his head. We're going to need his brain later, but seeing as how he doesn't have a heart anyway, that was my planned target.
As you say.
So, Cavis gestures for the two clerics to basically move in position near Faust, but not too close to him, not behind him. Don't want to have a bullet go through and kill one of them too or something and start getting real complicated real fast. He says, well, if you're going to do it, let's get it done.
Have you had time to think of what your final thoughts are going to be?
I've thought on it for some time. Because there was a span there where I was pretty convinced he was going to kill me. Especially when he first started appearing. It seemed... my first thought was that he would come here and try to take my place somehow. I was thinking smaller then. That he just wanted to escape his own world for his reasons and would find it much more appealing to be here, taking my place. It was only after many more years of additional research that I started to realize a little bit more about what his game could be. So, I have thought on it. The problem is, my most precious memory is one that's not going to be of use to you. Because you don't remember her.
Well, be that as it may, I suggest you conjure it now.
Tell you what, I'll describe it. Because as I lay dying, I won't be able to hide the truth from you. So I'll describe sort of what you might see, and if it matches that, then you'll know perhaps I'm on your side for once, or at least something resembling that. I imagine my thoughts will be of your mother. There is a particular moment in our getaway house in South Shore that we shared one of the last times I saw her. It must have been shortly after Cora was born. Should be something along those lines.
I hate describing it, but I'm not a good enough actor, and that would kind of be weird anyways. I look kind of upset, like I'm fighting back more emotions. I say, well, let's find out.
Ah, okay.
For the sake of simplicity, we're just going to say that this one shot can fell him.
Thank you. Oh, critical fail. Oh,
yeah, he has no reason to be down in health.
I actually hit Tessie and
I can assure you your 15 to 25 damage is not enough to kill Faust Trident.
No.
But narratively, he's allowing this to happen, etc. So, just in case anybody's out there like, wait, one shot killed him? We should have killed him weeks ago. Like, what the hell?
You make us, like, whittle his health down. All right, we're in turn 15.
You unload the gun once, and then you pull out a knife and just start stabbing him.
The whole party is just running him through over and over again.
You're over here. Hold on, I gotta load.
It's a miserable death. The bullet strikes true with high velocity, just flies directly through the left side of his chest where the heart would be. But he doesn't have...
Exactly. I called it!
There's this moment of almost surprise. Not that he didn't expect you to do it, but just kind of like, oh, so this is what this feels like? And then, for the first time in any of this group's dealings with him, or Isaac's individually, as he starts to slump forward and there's blood just pouring out of this cavity in his chest now, he almost looks at peace. And he just kind of face down on this pristine alabaster stone in the hallway.
I get ready to potentially grab a hold of Isaac.
I was going to say, I would consider trying to catch him. I would think about it, but I'm going to be going through my own stuff. So
Yes. So the healers move to attend to him after kind of waiting just a beat to make sure that this effect is triggered, essentially. But they kind of step up now that he's slumped over. Haven't done anything yet. Faust, because he's a fucking boss, is choosing, even in death, to fail the saving throw he would have to make against the effect of this weapon. Even in death, he is that well versed in magic to control this particular effect. The question would be, could he do it in reverse? Could he choose to could he auto succeed it or something if he was choosing? That I don't know. But in terms of failing, as his dying breath leaves him, he is choosing to fail the saving throw that he could make against the effects of your weapon. You, however, need to make a wisdom saving throw.
Dun dun dun.
Okay, let's see.
And this is how we lose 2 people.
Oh, no, that's wrong. That's my ability modifier. Okay, so...
Cannot wait for your brains to just get...
My head literally might explode.
Brain on drugs, just eggs cracked all over the place.
It's just
14.
nothing but the SpongeBob theme song in your head.
As you're watching your father slump over, knowing this shot has killed him, given the current arrangement, it's not exactly it's not the most serious thing in the world, because you know that in theory he's supposed to be brought back, so it's not, this isn't like you've killed him with the intent of him being dead. But even so...
Sure, but I never liked this plan.
Having pulled the trigger and now watched him slump over, there's kind of this moment of fuck, As you watch him kind of slump over and that pool underneath him just sort of spreads out and radiates from the body, you are all of a sudden racked with headaches. And your vision quickly leaves this particular hallway in this chamber. And as you're kind of just staggering back, not knocked over, not falling down, the rest of you can see this, just kind of reeling from this mental impact of sorts. There's this sharp...
Steady him. Make sure he doesn't,
You don't want to fly back and hit his head.
I'm wondering if there's going to be, what Isaac sees, what you all see.
Yeah.
You can actually feel Tessian's hand steadying your back as this is happening as well. You're still aware of your physical presence, but as you're feeling this just splitting pain in your head, your vision takes you to a place that feels distantly familiar. You have been to Valencia Villa on a handful of occasions, none of them recently. It was more when you were younger. But the scene is of your father's room in this getaway house, if you will, this second home, this resort village. And you recognize the room just from some of the furniture and the placements of things in it. It's strange because it's a memory that feels foggy. It's there, but it's something that may have been lost along the way or just pushed back by some other means. But there is definitely this sense of home to it that feels familiar. And from your perspective, you see a woman sitting on a bed. A nice bed. It's essentially very similar to the one in your father's chamber in Timberbrook, because as the hero of the war, he is always well compensated, and even before he became the Margrave of Timberbrook, he's always done pretty well for himself since 40 years ago. It's almost like her face is blurry to you, and yet still recognizable. Soft features in the face. Gentle, light blue eyes. A sharp chin. It feels like somebody you should know, but it isn't making a complete connection. Like, the best way to describe it is you know this person, and yet you couldn't name who they are. And a voice, seemingly coming from your perspective, says, "All right, my love, I'll only be on business for a few days. When I return, I think it's time to do something with the children. It's been a few months now, and some of them are starting to get old enough that I think they'll start to have memories of this." And the person sitting on the bed just says, "I agree. Yes. Take them someplace nice, maybe. Get away for a few days. I mean, to the beach, perhaps? Cora's never been." The person from your perspective says, "I would like that, yes. I swear, 3 days, maybe 4 at most. It's a quick conference, and I will return as soon as I can, but are you sure you'll be okay when I'm gone?" She says, "Absolutely. I mean, you've given me anything I could hope for, and we have 4 wonderful children. With the help available to me, I don't think there will be any problems whatsoever. You just take care of things and come back when you're done." And the figure turns and leaves the room. As the rest of you in the hallway are sort of waiting, just like, okay, like, you have seen Isaac use this effect once before. Grail would have seen it twice, but she's not here. So you kind of at least sort of have an idea what to expect. There's not like this big, bombastic thing or any like really noticeable way other than him sort of recoiling from it. The difference now, Tessian, as you are propping him up sort of with a hand just as he was staggering backwards, is after about 15 seconds have passed, it's like this connection crumbles, and instead of him just leaning back sort of as he's braced himself, his body just goes limp.
Oh, I try to catch him with my little Tessian arms.
Can I try to help?
I will say make a dexterity check with advantage since Lena's helping.
I'm like one of those fighters that just like their legs just give out and then
Kind
just
of.
crumple.
Yeah.
Dexterity check
Yep.
with advantage. Okay.
What if she
Thank
was
God
like,
it's-
"You've given me 5 wonderful children." Like, bum, bum, bum.
You've given me 3 wonderful children and 1 Isaac.
Oh, no! Yeah, 13. Thank God for advantage.
Because you're already sort of helping him and you're in position, the suddenness of this catches you off guard to some extent. And to catch him, even with Lena's help, is going to kind of involve him sort of falling back against you to some extent as well. It doesn't knock you over or topple you or anything, but it does sort of like throw you off for a minute before you can balance yourself. You are able to reduce the majority of the impact. He still kind of hits the ground with a little bit of force, but you can sort of keep it so his head doesn't like recoil against the stone or anything. But you, for the most part, can guide him to the ground in a much softer fashion than he was going to be if he had been of his own devices. At this point, Cavis goes, "Probably not supposed to happen like that, right?"
Tessian shakes his head. No, he usually just sort of staggers for a little bit. It takes a couple seconds, for him to understand what it is. Never this bad before, but that's what Faust said would happen.
So he quickly snaps to the two clerics and says, "All right, one of you attend to him," and he points at Faust and says, "The other one, you better check on this guy." So the two of them split up. One of them starts to bring Faust Dryden back to life, and the other is going to turn her attention to Isaac. Is there anything any of you wish to do in the interim?
I'm gonna take a look at him too, because I don't want him dead.
Go ahead and make a medicine check.
Dun dun dun. I need to be on my character sheet. There it is. It's a 6.
Well, Dr. Karash, there's definitely something wrong with this patient. He seems to be unconscious and not responding.
This patient is unconscious.
It is not lupus.
Good. Unfortunately, even though you've been sort of reading up on different medical terminology in some of those books recently, whatever's happening here, he's not responding, but the cause of it, other than the one that you already know about, any further information about it seems to elude you for the time being.
I am very helpful.
You can tell there is still a pulse.
Are you sure?
Even on a 6, I feel like that's something that you should be able to notice.
He is not breathing. No, he is, Crash.
I'm very emotional right now.
How could I have missed that?
We're gonna have to intubate.
Yeah, just put the stupid curved thing in his neck. The other cleric comes over, and she is going to cast Greater Restoration. Seeing pretty quickly that he does in fact have a pulse, etc. So let's see. Debilitating effect, charmed, petrified, curse, ability scores, reduction, hit point maximum. She takes a moment, reaches down, touches Isaac's now prone body, and you can see this vivid bluish-white glow as she places her hands on his chest. She seems to be trying to detect something inside of his body, sort of shifts it up closer to his head at one point because she had a basic description of what this was supposed to be exactly. A moment passes and the spell fades, and she says, "This is not something that can be helped by Greater Restoration. He is alive, clearly. You can see his chest rising and falling, and his pulse seems regular, maybe a bit slow, but nothing too abnormal. Perhaps we need something bigger." The other one is still over there working on Faust. Takes time. You know how it goes, right?
What is bigger than Greater Restoration?
She says, "I don't know exactly what we're dealing with, but we could pump restorative magic into him or healing just to see if it..."
As soon as I'm given an option, I'm going to start pumping some laying on hands into him.
Okay, how many points?
I'll go in increments of 5 until I'm out. I have 45 total.
Okay. She is going to cast Regenerate on Isaac to give you a sense of what exactly the Empress has at her disposal here to make sure that she is safe. That is a 7th level spell. So that is, I guess I should roll just to double check here. For the time being, for the first bit of this, it is 4d8 plus 15. The auto roller did about average, 16. So that is 31 hit points. What's your total HP now that you've leveled?
84.
It's not enough yet.
Snap.
I got nothing. I got nothing that can help.
I know, I'm going through my spells too, and I don't see anything.
Well, I always have more healing slots, so why not?
Healing?
have-
I suppose you might as well put that in
You
there.
have Cure Wounds.
Yeah, I have Cure Wounds.
Well, so does
Level
Lena
3
I guess
now.
I could be doing
at
that.
5th level.
Oh, I could do mass cure wounds.
I mean, option
Sure.
B.
Technically,
you
regular
start
Cure
rolling
Wounds
up
will
a
be
new
better for one
character,
target.
Oh,
That's true. That's true.
could do what?
I said technically for one target, regular Cure Wounds cast at 5th level is better because it'll be 5d8 instead of 3d8.
Let's do that. I'll try that.
Mass Cure Wounds is the more powerful spell, but nobody else in the group needs healing right now.
Yeah.
Unless you want to cast it on Faust too. It won't do anything right now.
Okay. It's giving me two numbers. There's a 13 healing for a higher level cast, and then there's a 12 healing for touch.
So I think that's... Yeah, it's you rolled a 6 on your original d8 plus 6 because of your spellcasting modifiers. You didn't roll very good on the extra 4d8. It was a 4, a 4, a 2, and a 3, but it's still 25 points of healing.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'll take it.